Probably need water.
Strait of Hormuz and negotiate a ceasefire is tomorrow, and if they don't, basically the entire country will be taken out in one night. Does this mean a nuclear weapon is at the ready? Watch what the president just said.
The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
Is that a permanent condition now? Is it going to win the war? No, absolutely not. And I think that's the systems. What they will do after Trump completes his mission on Tuesday night or whenever he decides to start it, you got to take these deadlines with a grain of salt. He's not always completely honest about that, and what you may get is something to destroy everything of a similar quality in terms of energy infrastructure and power plants, and potentially, I don't know if we hit the desalination plants or not, but if we rob the country of power, I suppose desalination won't work anyway. But the Iranians can turn around and do that to the entire western coast of the Persian Gulf. And I think that to sustain themselves, they won't be able to drink water. They won't have anything else in Syria. Ultimately, Iraq, even at the expense of Jordan and Saudi Arabia and the Sinai part of Egypt beyond the Nile, all of this forbids a Palestinian state, and it makes compromise with Iran, with any of the Muslim countries. Our only interest historically was really in the oil and the 47 products around the world that oil produces and petroleum is part of, but we have no interest in the territory there, but we're being asked to underwrite that expansion, and at the same time, we're being asked to make the region submissive with it. And I don't think the military is the right instrument to help Israel improve its position in the region. So everything that you're hearing is essentially a verdict on Israel and its destruction. It makes Israel's failure inevitable. There is no chance for them to achieve what they want. We can't make it happen. We don't have the military
deal because it disfavored Israel. Obama was choosing Iran over Israel, and why would you do that? I mean, I would do that at this point. And what he said is, I have there.
No, I think plastics, it's fertilizer, it's nuclear reactors back online. They have a lot of work ahead of them, but they're doing it. And at the same time, they're burning whatever coal they can buy from wherever they can get it. The same thing is happening in Korea. All of these states that we're talking about, whether it's Korea, Japan, India, most of Southeast Asia, most of Africa, these states are not our enemies. Most of these states have good relations with us. We are our friends, and we're sending them all simultaneously to the poorhouse.
Wake up!
It also affects us. President Trump doesn't even seem to understand that oil is a global commodity. So when the price rises in one place, it rises in other places. We're seeing it rise here right now in Germany. They're paying the equivalent of $11. They're not arriving because the Japanese, the Koreans, Indians, others can offer more money than Europeans can for the energy. So the whole energy system in the world is being disrupted, and ultimately it's going to have to be rebuilt, and it's going to take a decade.
When people say, I told you so, Yeah, that's me, actually, because I did tell you. Sorry, but I told you that gold and silver were going to reap the benefits of excessive money printing. The Fed just printing money will create overvalued markets, global unrest. It's here. It's happened. Gold and silver have both soared to all-time highs. So I hope you called our friends at Lear Capital and you bought some. If you didn't, trust me, it's not too late. Experts are predicting even higher prices ahead. And they get it. They know what's coming. Isn't it time, folks? Get yourself education information on protecting and growing your wealth with gold and silver. I'm sure there are many of you that have called and haven't purchased yet for whatever reason. Don't make the same mistake twice. Now is the time to get some gold shipped directly to you or shift some dollars in your retirement accounts over to physical gold and silver. It's easy to do. Lee and I have done it for both, and I've been extremely satisfied with Lear's knowledge, their service, their prices. I urge you to call today and learn more. Call them 1-800-613-3557 or go to LearRedacted.com, and you can receive up to $20,000 in free bonus medals with a qualified purchase. Because we just heard from Ed Dowd. Ed Dowd just made a message about from former BlackRock guy. He basically said, hey, right now, we're entering a phase where panic buying is going to become a reality. You're going to go along until that starts trickling into Europe and into the United States.
Well, I think Europe is already crumbling. Germany, in particular, is just in the worst imaginable possible position. They've already been through this long process of deindustrialization because Biden decided to destroy the pipeline that brought them cheap energy from Russia. They can't do business anymore with Russia. Now they're dependent on external sources, and the pipelines that are reaching north are going to be, and as that begins to develop in a dramatic way and hits us here at home as well, I think President Trump's war is going to be ended involuntarily, ultimately. But he continues this route. I think he's going to be a potential victim.
Well, question of the person that I used to interview on a regular basis. There's that he has dementia. I mean, rumors about him being rushed to the hospital the other day. Alex Jones talking about his swelled up ankles, meaning that he's got some sort of a heart failure. Who knows? This kind of stuff spirals out of control. But you agree that something seems off?
Yeah, this is not the man that I knew in 2020. When I had the opportunity to sit and talk with him, he was a very different person. He was much more relaxed. I would describe him as being very much in control of his faculties. And when I listen to him now, it's not the same person. He hasn't come out in the middle of the night like the last one on Easter. This war beyond 60 days unless we get a declaration of war. At the same point, we're spending a lot of money over there. We're not getting much for our investment, in my judgment. So I think we need to bring
Pulse of this. We see these stories about like the doomsday planes. You see it with Netanyahu, and then nothing comes of it. Then you see this base home to America's Nuclear Command and Center, the Night Watch, Boeing E-4B, made several loops above the Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska today. What do you make of this? Do you think of this or nothing?
I hope not much, but it could be that the decision is made to do it at this point in order to send signals that they think are somehow going to intimidate the Iranians or anybody else. This sort of thing doesn't work. It never does. But we've gotten to the point now where I think the answer to President Trump is going to be more resistance, more hostility, a greater readiness to fight. So I think, in addition to what I mentioned earlier on Tuesday, I think you will see the use of some ground forces in the Persian Gulf in order to stop things from moving through it. All you have to do is make it abundantly clear that you have tactical ballistic missiles on, unless you can stop or disrupt the communication between the satellites which provide the targeting data for the strike systems. Nothing is going to change. And no one in their right mind is going to underwrite the shipping with insurance. So I don't know why he thinks that this can be done militarily. because I just don't see it working.
Something that Dan Davis has said on our show is that a nuclear weapon in Iran will be a nuclear.
This precise as conventional warheads, only at the detonation and infinitely more destructive with long-term effects. And we know what those are. You can poison the atmosphere, poison the ground. You can set up people to die from all sorts of cancer for years afterwards. So that's the difference, and that's why we don't want anything to do with nuclear weapons. You end up destroying everything. There's no real strategic benefit to it, unless your goal is to murder. And you see, this is why, frankly, I don't believe that President Trump would employ such a weapon, or anybody in the United States to do so, because I don't think our aim is to murder a million people in Iran. On the other hand, I do worry about Israel. All we have to do is listen to the things that what they have done in various places, and they have unhesitatingly murdered large numbers of people that they wanted to be rid of. So I worry about the Israelis, and I don't see any evidence that we have any real influence over them. I only see influence going in one direction, from them to President Trump and his advisors.
I just want to come back to your military depth of knowledge, and what this, when we look at ground troops, we look at, seems like the massive mobilization across the board here, multiple aircraft carriers now in this space. Maybe you could sort of game out what we're seeing and how you think this might unfold, maybe over the next few days.
It's so funny, man.
As they do right now. Persistent surveillance, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Anywhere from 600 to 1,200 miles from Iran. In other words, just draw a circle. And you go out from Iran's borders 600 to 1,000 miles. That means that you can see everything that is there. Potentially, given the weapons they have, their missile technology. That means that if you're American forces, whether you are at sea, in the air, on the ground, in an airstrip or an airfield, or you are soldiers or Marines trying to move into the Persian Gulf, whether you fly in or however they manage to insert them, you are operating in a killing zone. That's what needs to be understood. It's one giant killing zone. And all they have to do is look at the screen and find you, and you're done.
Before you go on, in that killing zone, what type of weapons does Iran still have access to? Are we talking hypersonics and others that they would be in that killing zone?
Oh, absolutely. You have tactical and you have theater ballistic missiles. An intercontinental ballistic missile does not exist in the Iranian inventory, contrary to what people are saying. Nor do I think we're going to see one anytime soon. But certainly theater ballistic missiles that can fly 1,000 to 1,500 miles, yes, they exist, and they are precise, and they can be hypersonic. They can be unstoppable. But they can do the same thing with drones, albeit the drones will be slower, cheaper, but in far greater numbers, which is what we've seen repeatedly. And we have turned out to be very, very ineffective in our efforts to shoot these things down or stop them. That's the problem. And increasingly, Israel is almost defenseless. I don't know what their missile status is with regard to our weapons, the THAAD missiles, or theater altitude and defense missiles, PAC-3s or Gen-Gs, whatever they've got. But I don't think they have enough to cope with the Iranian threat. The Iranians have proven and demonstrated repeatedly they'll penetrate, they'll get through, and they'll kill you. So my point is, how many Marines and how many soldiers can you airlift into the Persian Gulf area? So you try to put them into UAE, you try to put them into Kuwait, you try to put them into Qatar, wherever you try to go, they're going to be identified. And then you have to move them from wherever you stage them to the islands that you're trying to seize in the Gulf. Now, I hope that somebody somewhere, and I'm sure somebody has, in the military has pointed this out. And you can't guarantee that they'll get through without being killed before they even arrive at their target destination. That's the problem.
I want to ask you, in a minute we're going to talk to Scott Ritter about the rescue mission over the weekend. The White House held an hour-long press conference today with Trump and other military leaders, including the CIA. It's confused why they were there. ask you, what is the use value of doing something like that, a victory lapping a mission such as this? Because this may seem abundantly obvious, but you don't have to rescue people if you don't start wars. So why do you think they're doing this?
Well, remember, we go after pilots with a vengeance because you're asking pilots to potentially fly into enemy airspace. And if you expect them to do that, they have to have some assurance that if they're shot down, you will try to rescue them. In other words, we don't send pilots on suicide missions. Say, good luck, may never see you again, hope you get through. No, we tell them, look, well, you do the best you can. We'll give you all the support we possibly can. And if we're able to do so, we will definitely extricate you. And we don't leave people behind unless we can absolutely not avoid it. So I think that's important. On the other hand, Scott may be able to tell you more than I can about the details of the special operations mission on the ground in Iran, which I think was aimed at trying to secure enriched uranium. Now, that would involve the CIA. You can't do any of that without the Central Intelligence Agency. The expertise for that sort of thing is there, and their ability to identify it, contain it, and remove it would have to be part of the mission. Yeah, obviously, it does not seem to have worked. Now, how many people were injured or killed, I have no idea. And again, we're back to what you were talking about at the beginning. We're not going to broadcast that. From the wreckage that we have been able to see, and I don't know if that's all the wreckage or just some of it. I haven't seen very many remaining missile corpses or anything, thank God. But were they removed by the Iranians? I don't know. But it obviously didn't work. I think there were a lot of people in the Pentagon who made the point that this was the proverbial needle in the haystack, and the chances for success of that mission were always very low. So I think the president is probably going to turn his attention now to the other kinds of missions we discussed earlier. But we'll see.
Doug, before we let you go, I want to just get an assessment of what's happening inside of Tel Aviv, what's happening inside of Israel, and the attacks. We see videos that then have been later confirmed, and yes, we see neighborhoods on fire, but it's very difficult, as you know, to get information out of Israel. And those sources who are sort of speaking, well, it's almost like it reminds me of the Leslie Nielsen from Naked Gun. He's standing there literally on the phone with Zach. You can hear missiles going off in the background. It's all fine. Nothing to see here. You can hear like explosions in the background. First, on the Israel side, how are things looking there? What is Iran's ability to penetrate the Iron Dome, the other systems, and then also the Lebanon piece of this, and the destruction of neighborhoods across southern Lebanon? So maybe you could just unpack both of those pieces and where things stand there.
Well, starting with southern Lebanon, it's pretty obvious. The effort in southern Lebanon is to Gazify it. To essentially repeat in southern Lebanon what they've done in Gaza. There's also evidence that there's an interest in doing some of that on the West Bank, although it's not as intensive. The bottom line is that they thought, or at least insisted, that Hezbollah had been put out of action. Hezbollah is absolutely not out of action. And Hezbollah has managed to launch a lot of rockets into northern Israel. Especially the people in northern Israel are very unhappy. They made that abundantly clear politically. Many of them have been evacuated. Lots of Israelis have left. Now, where have they gone? I'm told Cyprus, Greek islands, even all the way to Serbia in some cases and elsewhere. I think Israel is on the knife edge of serious internal disruption. Their government is suppressing dissent. It has to right now. I think Mr. Netanyahu, and I don't know where he is. I have absolutely no idea where he is. But I think he and his government are hard-pressed to hold things together. I don't think the Iron Dome is very effective anymore. I don't know how effective it was to begin with. It was never as advertised. And as we were talking earlier, the missiles that they got, anti-missile missiles, I don't think there are very many left. As I've watched a number of these strikes that have been filmed and then disseminated to the West, you don't see much response to incoming missiles anymore. If there is any, it's very modest. In many cases, none at all. I think Israel's in a lot of trouble. But remember, Israel has an opportunity in the minds of Mr. Netanyahu and his government that they may not have again. And that is absolute unconditional support from the United States. They have real control over the decision makers in Washington.
TurboTax locations are now open in your neighborhood. So, hand off your taxes to an expert today. Now, local experts do your taxes with 100% accuracy.
And they want to exploit that to achieve their larger aims, which are not just to subdue Iran, but to establish their supremacy across the region and to dominate the region to the point where they can expand their borders as they see fit or will. This makes any sort of compromise impossible. It makes an end to this conflict impossible. It gives the United States Armed Forces mission impossible because we're there to beat everyone else into submission. We can't do that. It's beyond our resources and our capabilities.
And finally, Doug, just how devastated is Iran right now?
Well, I think they've certainly suffered some serious civilian casualties. Thousands of people have been killed. How many thousands, we don't know. Now, Alistair Crook, who has better access to the Iranian government and people in Iran than I do, seems to think that the Iranians thus far have actually sustained fewer casualties than they did during the 12-day war. That they evacuated promptly into shelters. They got people away. They had alternatives to existing hospitals because the Israelis had destroyed a lot of hospitals and aid stations. That was done early on. They seem to have expected that, so they were prepared for it. They seem to have weathered it pretty well. Now, I don't know what President Trump has up his sleeve, but based upon what he's saying, I guess we should expect the worst. And I think the Iranians are preparing for that. And again, the key point is this is a continental power half the size of India with 93 million people. They will take the damage. They will absorb the punishment, just as the Soviets absorbed enormous punishment in the past during World War II and during the invasion of Russia by Napoleon. They are a large area, a large population. They can't protect everything, so they don't try. They accept the fact that they're going to sustain damage. I think the Israelis have done that. But they also know how to mobilize their population and get them out there. And that's what happened with our special ops mission. My impression is that most of the people that did the fighting, and many of those who were probably killed, were actually local militia as opposed to part of a regular military force. So they're prepared. And I think they'll take whatever punishment is dished out, and they will counter-strike. They will counterattack. Now, the final thing, and nobody mentions this, we have to keep this in mind. The Russians, the Chinese, the Turks, the Pakistanis, others are on the sidelines. They are watching this unfold. They are prepared to act at some point. They will not let this go on in perpetuity. And the pressure from the rest of the world to do something to stop us is going to become overwhelming. The Egyptians, they have the largest army in the region. They're the largest Muslim Arab state in the region. They are on a knife edge there. Sisi is in an unfortunate position. He doesn't want to attack right now, but he's under tremendous pressure from his population to act against the Israelis. He's got 100 million people there who are ready to fight. They're angry as hell. He might not last. I don't think most of the Arab governments that we see today will be there in a few months. So,
Because you think that
go through dramatic turnover.
because you think the will of the Arabic population is to stop another Gaza from happening and has been all along. I mean, it's a source of great frustration that that was allowed to happen while so many powerful leaders sat on their hands.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Well, and the corrupt Egyptians who are making millions of dollars off of building concentration camps in Rafah, and who are really cleaning up on the black market and making so much money off of what will become this massive refugee crisis pouring into these concentration camps that they made all this money off of. So,
And the ruling classes in the Gulf states, many of them are living in Egypt right now. They fled the area and they're sitting in Egypt. The Egyptian population is not oblivious to this. They're well aware of it. Remember, we were instrumental in preventing the Muslim Brotherhood from seizing power. But the reason the Muslim Brotherhood came to power initially in Egypt was very simply because of the corruption that you're discussing. They're aware of it. They're sick of it. They're angry about it. That's why most of the Arabs in the Muslim Arab world don't have much use for the ruling elites in the Arabian Peninsula. They are seen as, quote unquote, the fat and the corrupt. We have been backing all of these people for years. So you can imagine how popular we are.
Right. And so I don't want to extrapolate too much here, but it's very possible that in the United States, anyone who does not support Israel will become a desirable candidate for future elections because we see it, because there's a national frustration at AIPAC co-opted politicians, and that could also happen in the Gulf regions, you say, which would be international, which would be an implosion of Israel's global support.
Yes, I think that's true. And I think you also have to extend some of this to Europe. Because you have European leaders who are co-conspirators in the war that we are waging. But more important, they utterly fail to protect their own populations. Remember, when you're the leader of a country, you're supposed to shelter, feed, and protect your people. What has happened in Europe? They're not being sheltered. They're not going to have enough to eat. They're not going to be able to power their systems, heat their homes, protect themselves, run hospitals. All hell is going to break loose in Europe, too. We've been waiting for this. You and I and others, we've talked about the problems in Europe. Well, I think all of this is going to suddenly come to fruition.
Douglas McGregor hosted a national conversation. His great works over at the American Conservative as well. Anywhere else people can find your work lately, Colonel?
You might look on the Substack. I've got a great Substack now. I've been writing one major essay every 7 days or so. And I've also posted some older things that I've done. And we've got thousands of subscribers coming in. And it's very successful. I urge people to go to that. I think they'll find what's there of great interest because I'm trying to stay on the strategic level. The tactical situation isn't going to change a lot. We're going to continue to struggle. Strategically, what happens is key. And it's back to what we said at the very beginning, this economic catastrophe that is being created by the loss of 20% of the world's resources. It's more than that. Somebody said to me, well, it's about $15 million, 15 million barrels of oil a day off the market in the Gulf. Once you close off the Red Sea and the Houthis begin to operate at another 11 billion, you're looking at a global catastrophe economically.
And we should point out, here's an update, Colonel. $42 billion has been spent so far on this war, Israel's war in Iran. Just over about a month now in length, about $1 billion a day. So we're at 42 billion, almost nearing 43. Maybe by the end of today's show, we'll hit that number. Doug, great to see you as always. Thank you for your insights. Everyone should read his Substack and subscribe. Colonel, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
It's just like a very cool way to prototype extremely quickly. If I go here in Figma, I just have this design here that I pulled together. I can just take the link, I can copy a link to selection, and then I can go into Codex and I can just paste the link. Use the Figma.
While technology pushes medicine forward, one of our most powerful tools is we're human. That's how we're evolving healthcare. By the belief we all have the power to heal.
Well, President Trump says that the deadline for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz and negotiate a ceasefire is tomorrow. And if they don't, basically the entire country will be taken out in one night. Does this mean a nuclear weapon is at the ready? Watch what the president just said.
The entire country could be taken out in one night. And that night might be tomorrow night.
So while we try to decipher what is real, what is rhetoric right now, the U.S. has put a blackout on satellite images.
That's right. This Planet Lab says that they have received a request from the U.S. to black out all images in and around Iran and surrounding regions dating back to March 6th at least, and possibly before the war. They're saying they have to comply, and other satellite companies are reporting that the U.S. is threatening sanctions if they don't. Why would they do that? Why would they not want us to access satellite imagery, do you think? So how can we know what to believe? Joining us to discuss is Colonel Douglas McGregor. He can tell us what he thinks of all of this. So first, let's start with the nuke. Do you think that's what that means? Is that the only way to wipe out an entire country in one day? Does that horrify you?
Well, the possibility of a nuclear weapon always horrifies me. I think there are some other ways that can be employed that could certainly disrupt power inside the country. Quote unquote, taking out the entire country sounds to me to be a little hyperbolic. And, Trump is famous for hyperbolic statements. He's the born marketer. He stands up and grossly exaggerates everything out of proportion to reality. So my assumption is that he's not talking about a nuclear weapon. If he does, well, I think George Kennan said it best. He said that a nuclear weapon was a personal device because there's no rational application for it. Even Stalin said that it had no real military utility because it destroyed everything. It was only useful insofar as you could protect your territorial integrity with it. So I hope that that's not what he's talking about. I think it's probably conventional. And there are some innovative ways to disrupt power and essentially black out the entire country. It's a permanent condition. No. Is it going to win the war? No. Absolutely not. And I think that's the problem. You were talking about censorship. Well, if you're winning and things are going well, you don't usually need censorship, do you?
No. Well, the president released I think, pretty nice, jovial Easter message on Truth Social.
It was inspiring.
It was really inspiring. Like when the kids were, doing their Easter egg hunt. Like, let's gather around and read the president's message because it was really inspiring. He said Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Pray.
Let's find some friends.
Let's say something, but fuck. Man.
Come play with me.
has been slain.
Come play with me. Hey, come back.
An ally has been slain. Shut down. Shut down.
Let's find some friends. Aw. Let me give you a hug.
Enemy rampage.
Where are we going?
An ally has been slain. Enemy double kill.
Okay.
Fuck that.
Shut down.
Aw. Let's find some friends. Come play with me.
What the fuck? I give both of them.
Where are we going?
Shut down.
Come play with me. Okay.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Let me give you a hug. Let me give you a hug.
Shut down.
Find some friends. Hey, come back.
An ally has been slain. Shut down.
Let's find some friends. Come play with me.
An ally has been slain. Rampage.
Okay. Come play with me.
Enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Let me give you a hug. Where are we going?
Enemy has been slain. Enemy killing spree. An enemy has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed. Unstoppable. Double kill.
Let's find some friends.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Come play with me.
enemy has been slain. Enemy triple kill. An enemy has been slain.
Let's find some friends. Okay. Come play with me.
It's yeah, it's I managed, but I didn't play for like. You did very good, but it's just one.
Let's find some friends.
Slain.
Let me give you a hug. Let me give you a hug. Ha!